Bibb. He escaped enslavement. He went to Canada and created an abolitionist newspaper. Lewis Hayden and his wife and child were snuck out in dramatic fashion out of Kentucky, went to Boston, and became some of the biggest abolitionist leaders there, leading to the 54th Massachusetts. They were talking about naming a middle school in Lexington after Lewis Hayden. That was what I supported because I was like, he was enslaved right here where this middle school is. And they ultimately went with something bland and boring. Kentucky itself as a border state, it's just different region to region. Central Kentucky had a lot of small farms and there's a lot of slave markets in Lexington. Eastern Kentucky didn't really have a lot of enslaved people because they're in the mountains, there wasn't as much farming. You know, that's why West Virginia didn't. And I know in Louisville there was more commingling in the city. And so parts of Louisville were even called northern islands in a southern city. So we saw a lot of advocacy, particularly there. You know, minus Berea, I don't know how that plays into it. In terms of the shift, I pulled up a bunch of census data and said, if we're figuring out where sundown towns were in Kentucky, since we don't have that data, is we need to look at it like historians do. So I pulled through the census data and pulled it for Kentucky counties. And what's interesting, Kentucky definitely had sundown towns, but it didn't have as many as northern places because there were just more members of Black communities living amongst white populations. In places like Lexington, there were Black hamlets that were kind of on the outskirts of town. There's efforts in Lexington to memorialize and recognize those because they're all decimated. All of these little enclaves are being torn down to put in, you know, whatever new stadium or whatever. So we see that arise, and then we also see Christian County has a higher Black ratio population because it was a safe space, essentially. So we do see, not necessarily immediately, but as we head into the Jim Crow era, with the growth of violence, we do see these communities grow. We also see people from the Deep South coming to Kentucky because there were jobs in the coal mines, and as dangerous as those were because of the conditions and the people, it was still safer than some of the places down south. I came across this when I was reading about Black coal miners, and essentially it was a white coal miner who said, well, when we're down there, we all look the same. Kentucky's a mix, where Lynch, Kentucky once had more languages spoken than New York City at the time, because their coal mines were attracting so many immigrants, particularly from like Central and Eastern Europe. It creates this interesting racial dynamic that sometimes, like, you can build bridges across that, but then as soon as there's any type of labor organizing or anything, it's immediately going to be the thing used to drive a wedge between. Corbin was a sundown town. Very famously, they pushed everybody out of town, put them on trains, and they were lily white for a very long time. So that's why there's a lot of places called Whitesburg or Liberty. A lot of those are renamed to emphasize that they are, they're very white towns.
Why did you select Levittown to live?
We were looking for a place to buy a home. We looked at Levittown, and we liked the homes here. We liked the advantages that Levittown seemed to offer in comparison to other cities. And we understood that it was going to be all white, and we were very happy to buy a home here.
How about your children? Have you talked with them about the Myers?
We have tried to keep the discussions away from the children. I feel that it's something that we adults should solve without bringing the children into it any more than we have to. We're doing it for the children, but I don't feel that they are old enough to understand the problem as it is.
Do you think a Negro family moving here will affect the community as a whole?
Definitely.
In what way?
I think that, well, the property values will immediately go down if they are allowed to move in here in any number.
The idea of a sundown town is that these were communities that made themselves white by having laws or just unspoken laws about Black individuals being able to be in the town at night. There would be signs, the town signs, that would say that you don't want to be here when the sun goes down. Sundown towns were more common in northern areas because there already was a certain level of segregation, where there's actually more integration in southern areas, so they were less likely to have sundown towns in that way. In the North, people would say they like the race, but they don't want the individual in their neighborhood. Whereas in the South, it's, well, I like the individual who I know, but I don't like the race as a whole. Sometimes too, these enclaves, the hamlets, the communities that they knew would be safer. Sometimes it was a part of like the Great Migration, which is, a longer period, but they'd go to urban cities where enforcing those types of racial codes, it was just more of a challenge in terms of making a whole city white is more challenging than making a more suburban community.
By and large, the 20 million Negroes in the United States work and play just as any other American does. Of course, the pursuit of equal rights is uppermost in all our minds. We know that the responsibility of being an American is part of that pursuit. But in terms of everyday living, what we basically enjoy is pretty much what every American enjoys.